In September 2012, a rural Tennessee farmhouse was engulfed by flames, with an elderly couple and their 2 grandchildren trapped inside. Following a recovery operation, the bodies of the elderly couple were found, but the children seemingly vanished into thin air, with no trace of them being found within the ashes. What caused the fire remains a mystery, as do the whereabouts of the children. Was the fire accidental, or was foul play involved? 45-year-old Cheryl Daniel was once told she could never have children, but on the 23rd of June 2003, she gave birth to her first, quote, blessing, a baby girl named Chloie Rihanna Leverette. Unfortunately, when she was very young, Chloe's father passed away. According to those who loved her the most, she loved life and had a huge heart. Her half-brother, Christopher Gage Daniel, known as Gage, was born on the 29th of June 2005. He was described by his mother as a sweet and kind boy who shared a special bond with his grandfather, Bubba. Not much else is known about the siblings' childhoods, other than by 2012 they were both living with their maternal grandparents, 72-year-old Albert Leon Bubba and 70-year-old Molly McLaren, on a rural farmhouse on the 700 block of Kingman Road in Unionville, Bedford County, Tennessee, an hour south of Nashville. Their mother, Cheryl, was in the midst of recovering from drug and alcohol addiction at this time, which is why her children were in the care of her parents. On Sunday, the 23rd of September 2012, at approximately 9:30 p.m, an inferno ripped through the McLaren's home, completely burning the property to the ground. It was thought, due to the severe nature of the fire, that nobody within the home survived. During the recovery operation, fire services managed to recover the bodies of Bubba McLaren and his wife, Molly, lying side by side in the basement, as the entire structure of the farmhouse had caved in. According to their daughter, Cheryl, this seemed strange, as Bubba and Molly didn't share a bedroom together. How did their bodies come to be side by side? Forensic pathologists could not determine whether Bubba and Molly were dead or alive when the fire started, making it harder to determine whether foul play had occurred. The couple's cockatoo bird and miniature poodle were also found among the ashes. However, following the blaze, neither 9-year-old Chloe or 7-year-old Gage could be located. Helicopters and cadaver dogs were used in the search operation to find the children, but their efforts proved to be fruitless. Forensic anthropologists also examined the site extensively in the following days, sifting through the ashes for any bone fragments or other evidence which could have belonged to Chloe or Gage, but unfortunately, they found nothing of significance. If the children had perished, there would have been some sort of evidence to indicate this, whether it be bone fragments or scraps of clothing. Bodies, and bones more specifically, need an extraordinary amount of heat to be completely incinerated, and a house fire such as this would not have produced enough heat to do so, according to experts. Bone fragments would have been found. Authorities' first theory was that the children were perhaps with their mother, Cheryl Daniel. However, after paying her a visit, it was clear that Chloe and Gage were not with her. She was extremely distressed upon hearing what had happened to her children and her parents, and, though not completely reliable, it should be noted that Cheryl did later pass a polygraph test when questioned by authorities. Police also spoke with Gage's father, Christopher, although according to one source, he stated that he did not want to get involved. Authorities questioned other family members and friends but couldn't find any evidence to indicate any involvement. No suspects were ever established in the case, and whether a crime occurred still remains a topic of much debate. An investigation was immediately launched into the cause of the fire. However, authorities could not determine with absolute certainty whether the fire was accidental or intentional. It was eventually concluded, however, that the fire was most likely an accident. According to a number of sources, Bubba and Molly kept a substantial amount of mainly empty propane gas canisters in their basement, more than 30, and fire investigators found evidence that some tanks had ruptured, though there was no evidence of any sort of explosion having occurred. The McLarens were known to be hoarders, with their house being full of all sorts of bric-a-brac. If even a small fire had broken out, the sheer amount of belongings lying around would have provided quick fuel for the fire. Ultimately, though, who or what caused the fire remains unknown. The circumstances of Chloe and Gage's disappearances remain shrouded in mystery. No evidence at the scene of the fire indicated that the siblings succumbed to the tragedy which killed their grandparents. If they did not die that night, what happened to them? Their mother, who has appealed through the media numerous times over the years regarding her children's disappearance, recently spoke to the Unsolved Mysteries podcast on an episode titled Lost in the Ashes, and stated that she believed arson occurred on the night her children vanished. She told the podcast, quote, "They said that the fire had aired and vented through the door that was left open in the basement. I had to read that a couple of times because I was like, wait a minute, so the basement door was open? They knew this, the investigators did. Bubba was adamant about every night checking to make sure that basement door was locked before he went to bed. Every night. That was his routine, his habit, because that's where he kept his tools. Somebody had to open that door to let it vent. That was an eye-opener for me. I believe it was arson, and because of everything that's happened with Chloe and Gage being missing and not being in that house fire, it was intentional." Cheryl also spoke about how she believed someone who knew the family had something to do with her children's disappearance, as they would have known Chloe and Gage were in the care of their grandparents that night. Did someone intentionally murder Bubba and Molly in order to abduct the children? If so, why? And who was responsible? Or did the children themselves run from the fire out of fear for their lives? If this was the case, however, why were they not found? It is all possible that the children ran away of their own volition. Something interesting to note is that a safe belonging to Bubba and Molly had also disappeared from the home following the fire. Within it were the couple's wills, which had been altered just 1 month prior to their deaths. They were going to give all their money and assets to Chloe and Gage. The question is, who knew about this change, and how would they gain from this by kidnapping the children? Their mother, Cheryl, who is now sober and a fully recovered addict, now works with people who struggle with their own addictions and mental illnesses. She told Channel 3's Eyewitness News in regards to the heart-wrenching ordeal, "It's been hell, a nightmarish, heartbreaking hell." She hopes that the more exposure the disappearance of her children gets through the media, the more likely that answers will follow suit. All she wants to know is what happened to her lost daughter and son, and find the perpetrator who killed her mother and stepfather. Cheryl holds on to her motherly instincts that Chloe and Gage are out there alive somewhere, and that someday they will return home. At the time of her disappearance in September 2012, Chloe Leverette was 9 years old, standing at 4 feet 8 inches tall and weighing 75 pounds. She is described as being of Caucasian origins with brown hair and blue eyes. If alive today, she would be 18 years old. Her half-brother, Gage Daniel, was 7 years old at the time of his disappearance, standing at 4 feet tall and weighing approximately 50 pounds. He is also described as being Caucasian with brown hair and hazel eyes. Gage is classified as also having special needs, having Dandy Walker syndrome, a condition that affects motor skills and speech. He may require medical attention. If alive, Gage would be 16 years old. Both children were last seen alive playing in the yard of their grandparents' home at around 6:30 p.m. on the 23rd of September 2012. According to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, they continue to get occasional tips regarding this case, but what truly happened on the night of the fire remains a mystery. Numerous sightings have been called in from across the United States over the years, including a customer at a Tennessee diner who photographed a young girl who she thought resembled Chloe in early 2013, but unfortunately every lead has thus far hit a dead end. Cheryl firmly believes that the girl in the photographs is her missing daughter. Now almost 9 years on, and an Amber Alert is still active in this case. New age progressions of Chloe and Gage were released in 2020 in the hopes that someone, somewhere, will recognise them.